In today's video, we're going to go over the most overrated player for all 30 NBA teams. But before we get into it, please be sure to hit the like button and subscribe. I'm a small channel just trying to grow. Thank you very much. I must say this first, overrated does not mean bad. I think Frosted Flakes are overrated, but they're still pretty good. So if one of your favorite players are in this video, just know I'm not saying they are bad. And some of these teams don't even have generally overrated players, but I had to pick one for every team for the video. So yeah, just don't get super mad. It's not that deep. To start off the video for the Philadelphia 76ers, I have Paul George. In a league where averaging 20 points per game is kind of overlooked, it's almost normal now, Paul George finds himself at 35 years old, averaging 16 points per game, on 43% shooting from the field and 36% from three, which are about league average shooting splits, if that. A bounce back season for Paul George is certainly possible considering this is his worst season since 2014. It'd just simply be unfair to expect Paul George to come back and average 22 points per game on good efficiency, since he will be entering his late 30s and he was also injured for almost all of last year. He missed half the season, and that's kind of been the story with Paul George for as long as I've been watching basketball. He just can't stay consistently healthy, and his numbers have dipped drastically, so he makes the video. For the Milwaukee Bucks, I have Kyle Kuzma. The idea of Kyle Kuzma is so much better than the actual player. He's a 6'9" forward who ideally knock down some threes, hit some mid-range pull-ups, and play solid defense on the perimeter. Well, he doesn't really do any of that. This season, Kyle Kuzma averaged 14 points per game on 45% from the field and 33% from three. And this is coming off last season where he shot 28% from three, and he also had that donut in the playoffs that went super platinum on Twitter. So yeah, everyone kind of gets the gist on Kyle Kuzma. He looks like he'd be a great NBA player, but he's just not. And considering he's on the Milwaukee Bucks, who's probably one of the most mismanaged rosters in the NBA, I think he's going to have a lot higher expectations than he can actually output. But I genuinely hope he proves me wrong, because the Bucks are going to need him this year. For the Chicago Bulls, I have Patrick Williams, who was drafted number 4 overall in the 2020 draft. This was a pick that flew under the radar at the time and still to this day. Patrick Williams has the least amount of motion for a top 5 pick I think I've ever seen. This season, he averaged 9 points per game on 39% from the field and 35% from three. Yeah, he's just not very good. He's a solid defender, but when it comes to just his offensive game as a whole, it's just putrid. And really, we've been hoping to see flashes, glimpses of what he was supposed to be coming out of the draft. He was supposed to be this Kawhi Leonard hybrid, but that just never happened. It never really looked like it was going to happen throughout his NBA career, and the Bulls still extended him for 4 more years. Really good franchise. But yeah, my expectations for Patrick Williams out of the draft weren't very high, and they're definitely not high now after his mediocre NBA career so far. There's still a chance he can turn it around and be a good NBA player. He's a sizable wing, and he's a solid defender. He just can't shoot for the life of him. If he can just figure out his offensive game, then he'll have a long NBA career, but he's already 5 years in. For the Cleveland Cavaliers, I have Darius Garland. I know you're mad at me right now. I know you. I personally enjoy Darius Garland hoops. I think he's a great player. I think he's one of the best point guards in the NBA. But for the Cavaliers, a team looking to win a championship, Darius Garland is probably the most overrated out of their top 4. Darius Garland is great, an all-star level player. His playoff struggles are no secret, and he's the easiest defender to pick on for opposing teams. He wasn't terrible in the playoffs by any means, but he only had 2 games where he scored over 25 points. And for the last 3 years, Darius Garland's been in trade convos in the offseason for the exact same reasons. Great player. He's only in this video because he's the only reasonable pick from the Cleveland Cavaliers. For the Boston Celtics, I have Anthony Simons. This is a guy who's been averaging 20 points per game for the last 3 seasons, and it's kind of went under the radar because he's been a Portland Trailblazer his entire career until he was traded for Drew Holiday to the Boston Celtics. Last season, he averaged 19 points per game on 42% from the field and 36% from three. For a point guard who's one of the worst defenders in the league and only averages 5 assists per game, making about $28 million this season, given it's expiring, but still, it's not even necessarily a given he starts out next season on the Celtics. I've heard plenty of reports that they're looking to shop him as well after just getting him. The league is moving on from the one-dimensional guard archetype, and Anthony Simons is just another casualty of that. I had to place him here. I don't think he's the most overrated player in the league by any stretch of the imagination. I just could not put Jaylen Brown. I just couldn't do it. For the Los Angeles Clippers, I have Kawhi Leonard. Now, this is hard for me to say as a Clippers fan. You can only imagine my excitement the night we traded for Paul George and signed Kawhi Leonard. It was just amazing, right? Well, Kawhi Leonard is still the franchise cornerstone for the Clippers. He's the superstar. They're building around him. Everything flows through Kawhi Leonard. Well, safe to say the Kawhi PG experiment didn't exactly work in our favor. Kawhi is still a great player, and the Clippers do have reason to continue building around him, because if you can get Kawhi Leonard healthy in a playoff series, you really never know what's going to happen. An absolute Hall of Famer, an absolute legend. I love Kawhi Leonard. I really do. He came into the playoffs healthy for what felt like the the first time in forever, and he just played okay. Like, he wasn't bad, but he wasn't Kawhi Leonard. And now that he's dealt with multiple surgeries, an absurd amount of injuries, and he's also entering his mid-30s, I just have to put Kawhi on the video. For the Memphis Grizzlies, I have Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. There weren't really many options for the Grizzlies if you couldn't tell, but KCP is still viewed as like this 3-and-D wing. But in 2025, he's no longer 3 or D. His defense is definitely not what it used to be. And last season for the Magic, after he got that big payday, he averaged 8 points per game on 43% from the field and 34% from 3, which was arguably his worst offensive season since his rookie year. And he's also entering his 30s. So for any teams out there looking for a guy who can play defense and hit a 3, KCP's not your guy. Stay away. For the Atlanta Hawks, I have Nickeil Alexander-Walker. This guy was one of the biggest free agents headlining the market, and I completely understand why. He does all the gritty stuff. He'll defend the other team's best player. He'll die for loose balls. He plays a solid offensive game. But to make the big contract that he got worth it, I think he needs to be more consistent shooting the 3. For the last 2 to 3 years, he's just been super unreliable shooting the ball in the playoffs. So if he could just find a consistent 37-38% shot, then he wouldn't even be in the video. But the Hawks are one of the most underrated teams in the league, so obviously I don't have many options to pick from. For the Miami Heat, I have Andrew Wiggins. Earlier in the video, I said Kyle Kuzma was the best hypothetical NBA player. No, that is Andrew Wiggins. Last season, he averaged 19 points per game on 46% from the field and 36% from 3. Andrew Wiggins was traded at the deadline in the blockbuster Jimmy Butler deal, and he was the top 3 offensive option on the Miami Heat. Well, he did not he did not take advantage of that. In the playoffs, he averaged 11 points per game and shot 37% from the field. He's also grossly overpaid, and he's entering his 30s, so I can't imagine he gets much better. I know there's teams out there like the Lakers calling for a guy like Wiggins. I don't think he's a team changer. I don't think he changes the destination of any team in the league. But that being said, I mean, he's still a solid player. He plays good defense. He can score efficiently. It's just consistency and expectations for Andrew Wiggins, who was the #1 overall pick in the 2013 draft, I believe. But yeah, never really lived up to that promise, but he still became a solid player, won a championship with the Warriors. But yeah, I had to put him in the video. For the Charlotte Hornets, I have Lamelo Ball. Now, I won't take long on this. I am a Charlotte native, and I'm a huge Lamelo Ball fan, the only player I have multiple jerseys of. Lamelo's a walking highlight, and he can stuff the stat sheet. But at the end of the day, bro, I need you to win some games, bro. I want to go watch a playoff game. He won Rookie of the Year out the gate, and he's gotten better and better every single season. But to be the best player on this team, everything operates around you. You are the star. I need you to at least take this team to the play-in the Eastern Conference. Is it that much to ask for? So no, Lamelo Ball, the player, his actual on-court value, no, he is not overrated. But in terms of what the Hornets are asking of him to be, he might be a little bit. For the Utah Jazz, I have Lauri Markkanen, who since traded from Cleveland to Utah has broken out into an all-star level player. In his first season with Utah, he almost averaged 26 points per game on 50-40-90. He was that good, but unfortunately since then, his numbers have only dipped down and the injuries have only gotten more severe. He only played 47 games last season for the Utah Jazz, who I'm sure did sit him out a few games because they wanted to tank. But for a one-time all-star who was just rewarded with a 4-year max contract, he has got to bounce back next season into that 25 points per game-ish range. Now that the Jazz have dumped Colin Sexton and Jordan Clarkson and all their veterans, I don't see as to why he couldn't. But for now, Lauri is on the list. For the Sacramento Kings, I have Keegan Murray. Keegan Murray is just one of the most complicated prospects I think I've ever seen. He broke the record for most threes made in a season in his rookie year. He just looked like a star out the gate. In that rookie year, he shot 6 threes per game on 41%. Now you fast forward to 3 years later where everyone would have expected him to be even better. He now shoots 34% from 3, and he's still averaging 12 points per game just like he did in his rookie season. He just hasn't developed into the player that we thought he was going to be so far, and you could honestly argue he got worse. But he's still a valuable player to the Kings, and he's probably their best defender. I think this is just one of those guys that would thrive on another team. The Kings spacing just really killed his momentum. The DeMar DeRozan signing really killed the spacing on this team, and also the De'Aaron Fox trade doesn't help much now that he doesn't have a point guard giving him the ball. Maybe he'll turn it around, but I think we'll see another okay to mediocre season from Keegan Murray, and I don't know what that contract extension is going to look like. It could get pretty ugly for the Kings, but good player, still young. I think he's actually going to be really good down the line, but as for right now, he kind of is stuck. For the New York Knicks, I have Mikal Bridges. I'm going to keep this one short. I don't think Mikal Bridges is a bad player. He's still very good, but to trade 5 first-round picks for a good starter is not the move. He never took that next step offensively like some people thought he was going to, and I don't really think he ever will. My only issue with Mikal is the defensive side of the the ball. He's entering reputation defender territory, which I don't think he should be in. I mean, he's got the perfect build for one of the best perimeter defenders in the league, and he literally was that in Phoenix. He was amazing on defense. But since he was asked to be the first option in Brooklyn, he kind of slipped defensively, and he hasn't really looked back. Still a good player, and he makes the Knicks a lot better, but I just need to see more defensively, that's all. For the Los Angeles Lakers, I have Jared Vanderbilt. Now, the Lakers are very much an incomplete roster. I expect this team to look a lot different at the start of the season and during the trade deadline, but as of right now, Jared Vanderbilt's kind of looked at as their defensive ace. But we've seen this story time and time again with Vando. He just can't stay healthy, and he's also horrid offensively, like maybe the worst offensive player in the league. Yes, he is a great defender, but in 2025's NBA, you've got to at least be able to make a corner three to play meaningful minutes in the playoffs, and that's just something Jared Vanderbilt cannot do. So for now, he's here until he can develop that shot. Then we can have a different combo. For the Orlando Magic, I have Wendell Carter Jr. Wendell Carter has been the starting center for the Magic for 4 years now, maybe 3, 4, I think it's 4, and he just never really became a top 10, 15 center like I thought he could be. He's a stretch big who shot 46% from the field and 23% from 3. Awful shooting splits for a center. And he's no defensive ace either. I think the Magic should go a different direction at the center spot. The only problem is who. The only centers available right now are like Domantas Sabonis and Nick Claxton, who aren't really great fits for this team. They've got to upgrade at center. Wendell Carter Jr. is just not it. For the Mavericks, I have PJ Washington. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't really know who to pick, so I put PJ Washington. His shooting dipped drastically in the playoffs, and they now have Cooper Flagg, Najee Marshall, just a lot of guys to play his position, so he's kind of expendable. Yeah, sorry PJ. For the Brooklyn Nets, I have Nick Claxton. This is one of the better inside defenders in the NBA. The only problem is he's playing on the Brooklyn Nets, so obviously he's not out there giving it 110% every night. I mean, who would expect him to do that? Last season, his numbers dipped. He had his most inefficient season since his rookie year. The season prior to this, he averaged 2 blocks, and the season before that, he averaged 2.5 blocks, but in 2025, he only averaged 1.4 blocks, and the rebounds also went down as well. Just not a great season from Nick Claxton, and Nets fans I've seen have kind of turned on him a little bit. I would expect him to be traded, but after his down season, I don't think the Nets will really get much in return. For the Denver Nuggets, I have Christian Braun. Christian Braun is a promising young player who played big minutes for the Nuggets this season. The only issue is I don't think he was ready to be playing 40 minutes per night, especially in the playoffs. He's just not that caliber of player yet. I think he can become that guy, but just not yet. His offensive game still needs work. It still needs development, especially the 3-ball. And he's also going to be looking for an extension worth around $30 million plus per season. I don't necessarily know if I'd give him that. I don't know what other NBA team would. I could have put Jamal Murray in this spot for the Nuggets, but I just didn't really believe it myself, because I would look crazy if I put him in this video and then he goes into the playoffs next season and drops 50. That's just kind of what happens with Jamal Murray. So for now, I have Christian Braun in this spot. For the Indiana Pacers, I have Jarris Walker. This is a team that obviously just got off a finals run, so there's not going to be many overrated players on this team. Very good team, one of the best teams in the NBA. But Jarris Walker is a guy who was drafted number 8 overall in the 2023 draft. It's hard to get a gauge on who Jarris Walker is as a player just because he was drafted to play behind Pascal Siakam, also behind newly extended Obi Toppin, who also plays power forward. He's played okay in the limited amount of minutes he's been able to play this year, but nothing crazy, nothing jumped off the page, and I think the Pacers could have done better for the number 8 overall pick in that draft. But it's hard to really have expectations for this guy who has just been buried on the depth chart from day one. He dealt with injuries in his rookie season, but he played 75 games last year, and I still think he's going to be a good NBA player, so shout out to Jarris Walker. But for now, you're in the video. For the New Orleans Pelicans, I have DeJounte Murray, who unfortunately did not play very good in his first season in New Orleans. He averaged 17 points per game on 39% from the field and 29% from 3, and he went on to tear his Achilles 31 games into the season. He's going to be rehabbing the worst possible injury you can get in basketball, and the Pelicans also just traded for Jordan Poole and drafted Jeremiah Fears and extended Jose Alvarado. It's just like, what's really going on in this guard room? But he's still an extremely good player, and I wish him nothing but the best. For the Detroit Pistons, I have newly signed Caris LeVert. I'm sure every NBA fan out there has a few random players that they just really like for no reason. For me, that's Caris LeVert. I really enjoyed watching him in Brooklyn, and I've kind of just followed his career, just kind of watching what he's been doing, and he hasn't gotten much better since his early days in the league. If anything, he's gotten worse. To me, he looked like a star in his early years, but he just never really progressed past just the combo scoring guard who just didn't really have much playmaking capabilities, and not a great defender either, and not the most efficient shot creator in the world either. I think this was a good signing for the Pistons. I think it's a downgrade from Dennis Schroeder Schroeder, who's a more reliable three-point shooter and a better defender, but the Pistons got the best possible replacement they could in free agency, so can't really blame them for that. They're most likely going to be running him in backup point guard minutes, which I'm a little bit indifferent on. I'll be interested to see what he does for this Pistons team who's looking to make a deep run in the playoffs this year. I would assume he's a very hit or miss player. At times it's like, yo, give Karras the ball, he's actually cooking right now, and there's times where it's like, yo, what the fuck is this guy doing? Good free agency pickup for the Pistons, but for a team that needs spacing more than anything, he's not exactly going to help you out in that department. But you got Duncan Robinson, so you should low-key be chilling. For the Toronto Raptors, I have Immanuel Quickley. This is a guy who I just don't even know what to say. I don't know what he even is as a player, really. Last season he dealt with injury, so we didn't really get to see much of him. This is a really confusing player to discuss because he's almost like a Darius Garland archetype, just a little bit worse. He's a great offensive weapon. He can shoot it from deep and can take it to the hole, but for a point guard, he's not exactly the best facilitator, and he's making $32.5 million for the next 4 years. This is a guy who has a ton of potential still, but if the Toronto Raptors want to be anything serious, Immanuel Quickley has to turn up. For the Houston Rockets, I have Jabari Smith Jr. Jabari Smith was the number 3 overall pick in the 2022 draft, and he's another interesting player to discuss, kind of like Immanuel Quickley, because he also just got a major extension which will pay him for the next 5 years, but his best career season was in 2023 where he averaged 13 points per game on 36% from 3. Numbers that dipped this season, albeit Jabari did deal with some injuries. He only played 57 games. He might be one of the best prospects in the NBA right now. He's 6'11", 220. He can shoot the 3, and he's also a phenomenal defender, and he's only going to get better on that side of the ball. But the truth is, he hasn't lived up to the expectations that a number 3 overall pick usually has, but I don't think that takes away from his value. He did come in the league at 19 years old. He's still very young, and he showed more than just promise, so I think he's going to be very good. But for this current Rockets team, if they want to take the next level into championship contention, I think Jabari Smith has to figure out his offensive game. For the San Antonio Spurs, I have Devin Vassell. Devin last year averaged 16 points per game on 44% from the field and 36% from 3. He did have a down season the year previous to this. He almost averaged 20 points per game, but he's a solid starter next to Victor Wembanyama and De'Aaron Fox. He can score efficiently, and he plays solid defense. The only real concern with Devin Vassell is his contract, where he'll be making $27 million in 2029. I don't think he's quite yet proved that he is worth that contract, but I think with the Spurs being a much improved team headed into next year, he can most certainly do that. For the Phoenix Suns, I have Jalen Green. This is a guy who was drafted number 2 overall behind Cade Cunningham in 2021. Now, I'm no Jalen Green truther by any means. I didn't think he'd be a superstar, but I did think he would be better than he has been so far in his career. It feels like we get that yearly cycle of Jalen Green where he starts out the year extremely slow, then to end off this season, he averages 25 points per game on good efficiency. The cycle was a bit different this year though, as the Rockets made the playoffs, and Jalen Green, how do I say this? He was fucking terrible in the playoffs, and now he is on the Phoenix Suns with another 2 guard in Devin Booker. I don't necessarily like that fit. Jalen Green's also being paid $33 million for the next 3 years. I genuinely don't know what's next for Jalen Green, and I'm intrigued to see how the Suns kind of work out with this roster. I think they have the pieces to be a solid team, at least a play-in team, but I don't know what Jalen Green's future is here. For the OKC Thunder, I have Isaiah Hartenstein. Now, obviously, trying to pick an overrated player from this group is not easy, considering the fact that they're all extremely young, and they all just went on a run to win the championship. Yeah, I just kind of didn't know who to pick, I'm gonna be honest. I don't know. Shout out to iHeart, shout out to the Thunder. Congratulations on the chip. For the Minnesota Timberwolves, I have Dante DiVincenzo. Dante did struggle to start out the season in Minnesota. His scoring did go down, as well as his shooting percentages. It's just unfortunate that those struggles carried into the playoffs. Dante shot 31% from 3 in the playoffs, which is not good at all for a guy who's strictly on the floor to shoot. For the Timberwolves to make a real run in the playoffs next season, he's gonna have to step it up, or he will probably be traded. For the Portland Trailblazers, I have Jeremy Grant. Jeremy Grant in his early days in OKC and Denver was viewed as this Swiss Army knife forward who can hit the 3 and play solid defense. That was until he signed with Detroit in 2020, where he took on a much larger offensive role but left the defense in the dust. That defense has never quite recovered. Now Jeremy Grant is 30 years old, coming off a season where he averaged 14 points per game on 37% from the field and 36% from 3. A terribly inefficient season for him, where he only played 47 games. His minutes continue to go down and down every season because it's hard to justify him being on the floor if he's not an efficient scorer and he's not a great defender anymore. He's also on one of the worst contracts in the league, where he'll be making $36 million in 2028, and this is a guy that I still see mock trades on Twitter for, or just people discussing Jeremy Grant like he's a player that he just really isn't, at least least not in 2025, and I can't imagine Jeremy Grant stays on this team for much longer now that they have Toumani Camara and Deni Avdija, who are both better than him and play his position. Maybe he has a bounce back season next year, but I don't expect much. For the Golden State Warriors, I have Brandon Pajemski. If you want my honest opinions on B-Pods, I'm not even going to read off his stats, just know they're not great. Pods is a solid rotational player that's just simply being asked to do too much on a team that is looking to compete. It's genuinely not fair to him. He's only in his second season, and they had him playing 32 minutes per game in the playoffs, in which he shot 32% from three. Just wasn't a big factor for the Golden State Warriors, didn't do much for them positively, but the Warriors have signed quite literally no one in free agency, so I would expect them to be back in the same position this season. And for the final team in the video, the Washington Wizards, I have Bilal Coulibaly. This pains me to say because, man, was I a Bilal truther coming out of the draft, and I still am. I still think he can be extremely good. He has all the physical tools to be an extremely good player. But truly, I was underwhelmed by him last season. He shot 28% from three. Need I say more? His rookie year, he shot 35% from three. I thought that was something we can build on, we can develop, we can get better at this Bilal. I'm not going to be too critical on Bilal because he has only played 2 seasons and he's only 21 years old. But if he wants to be a real cornerstone for the Wizards moving forward, I think he has to show more than just flashes in the pan. He's a solid defender already, and I think he's only going to get better on that side of the floor, but he just has to figure out the shot and the offensive game in general. He's getting plenty of minutes, he's getting plenty of opportunity, he just hasn't really put it all together, but I do expect him to. Well, that wraps up the video. Let me know what you guys think about this down in the comment section below. This was not easy to do because, truth be told, a lot of these guys that I named really aren't overrated. It's hard to pick one from every team. But if you guys did enjoy, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching to the end of this video, and I hope to catch you guys in a future video soon. I'm out. Deuces.